good afternoon. I think by the time reading your profile, we would have finished one panel discussion. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Quanting team, for the wonderful effort and making and connecting all the leaders, from all the sectors and all the ranges from end to end, right? It's well appreciated. I know that like post-lunch, how it is going to be, right? It's a tough time for all the panel as well as, all the delegates who is listening, right? Whereas like other people will be pulling from inside, like come and take rest and then come and have a great sleep. But other side, like on the brain will say that like how we can listen and take it forward. So let's see how you're going to balance who is pulling from inside and then who is pulling from outside, who will win on the race. Great. Thank you so much, leader. Really, I'm looking forward to hear the wonderful conversation as well as the insights and essence of experience, what you have it from the wider aspects. So the bigger challenges, right, the current trend, what it is happening is supply chain risk. In all the way, right, in everybody knows it. In the organization, if you see that everybody is well aware, the supply chain risk is the bigger risk. And on top of that, how we are going to build it on the trust. That's what it is the bigger challenges. Supply chain, it's like knowingly, unknowingly, no other options. We have to go ahead with the flow. But at the same time, just how you are going to make a trust on top of that, supply chain risk is the bigger challenges what we are facing. On current trend, like if you take 20 years back, if you wanted to build any application, so we never outsource anything, right? If it is outsourcing also, that will be a server setup and all things. People will be coming inside our organizations and sitting and then working and they finish the software and then they go off, right? Because since we don't have a concept of laptop, we don't have a concept of cloud. But now it's absolutely the different, right? Including employee, vendor, and all the applications what we are using, it's a completely outsourced. Only thing is we are stretching all the applications from end to end. Like if you wanted to provide any services, it's maybe the B2C or B2B, absolutely, we blindly go ahead with what are the software we can connect, including bank, right? If you want to start the business on the bank, start with the KOC. The KOC is not owned by us. Again, it's like a third-party vendor. Again, it goes to the, in terms of other authentications and all this stuff, right? So it has a dependency of, the software and then how we can bring right set of software into the right place to make an impact on, from end to end. So then this aspect, we may have a control on our own environment, right? But not on the who is providing the services or who providing the people, or who is providing in terms of the applications, really we don't have a control. Even though there is a TPRM, the people will look on like a third-party risk management, like before onboarding on the respective vendor, what are the aspects where I have to have a look. But still, it's not as stringent enough like how we do the end-to-end from the hacker view as well as a compliance view, what are the things needs to be taken care actually. If you see the current trend, I think people are talking about ZNE, right? I mean, if you have a zero trust architectures, may not be as a software, just if you have a zero trust architectures, like the no trust and zero trust kind of stuff, and there are also a lot of chances like the people can penetrate. But we strongly go ahead like that is what it is a future. That's what we are going to add value, because since we have a multiple component, multiple third-party layers coming to the organization, if you have a zero trust architecture, so that will help in the bigger way, where lateral movement can be avoided. The people cannot take any steps on the quickly. It need a multiple authentication and then authorization. So we thought that like that, but if you see the drift incident, right, you might be knowing the drift incident, what are the incident has happened, who are all using Salesforce, and their authentication code has been copied. The same authentication code can be used for any client who are all using, any vendor who are all using Salesforce, and then respective drift applications, the integrations. So where we are able to extract, the authentication, where we are able to do the exfiltration of the respective data, whatever, they have it actually. So that aspect, so we have a lot of insight. Really, we want to hear from all the leader, and how we have structured the overall stuff is, maybe just we wanted to see that from the organization standpoint, how the supply chain risk where we have it. Then we do the double click on in terms of as a supply chain risk, what are things just where we have it. On the supply chain, just where we can go copy it upon, like what is internal, what is external, and then what are the key component which needs to be taken care from the the wider aspects. So if you take any applications, let us speak now just many of the people from the RBI and then SEBI, right? Uh, RBA and then SEBI, they mandated like saying that like where you should have the SBOM configurations. It's for your own environment at the same time for who are the supply chain network or the infrastructure what they're providing. Those things also which needs to be taken care from the end to end. So how much we strong in terms of the supply chain risk and how much the vendor is strong in their own infrastructure is a key aspect, and maybe end of the conversation we should be able to bring and then draw what are the aspects where we wanted to cover from the end to end. So maybe I wanted to start from the maybe I'll start with you in terms of the fundamental, because since you're talking about supply chain risk from the organization and then from the software side, but I wanted to start from the in terms of ZNE and then in terms of the microsegmented architectures, how the architecture has to be planned and designed and then implemented. See, if you take any organizations, the people will have all the policies. People will have all the process from end to end what they wanted to have it. But the problem and the bigger challenge is what we have it is how we are going to enforce, right? That's like it's a bigger risk what we have it. So that aspect really just I wanted to see what I have defined in my policy, what I have enforced in my architecture is a bigger challenge. Just love to hear from you, from design to the implementations for the microsegment architectures, how we can take it up.
Yeah, I would like to first tee off by saying that the supply chain attack has been consistently increasing over the past 3 years. From 2023 to 2024, there has been an 100% increase, and 2025 mid data is saying that per month there is almost 26 attacks that happens. And one survey basically states that from a cyber insurance standpoint, by 2025, end of 2025, 45% of the companies would have been impacted because of supply chain attacks, right? Fundamental reason being that basically four, because since you asked architecture, you would have to talk about what are the reasons why these attacks happen. One is usage of malicious open source packages. Two is usage of vulnerable components. Three, we have a lot of secrets tokens which get compromised. And last but not the least, the build pipeline itself is being tampered. From an architecture standpoint, see, there are days where which was non-cloud and cloud. In the days of non-cloud, most of the systems, right from the artifact repository to the build systems, were all within the organization. So you would be able to exercise better control and better policies around those systems. At this juncture, while it definitely helps in terms of speed and accuracy when you have the systems in the cloud, it also makes I just highlighted. So it's very important for an organization to understand, or from a security standpoint, if you're a security professional, to understand what is your business and where are the leaks, and then tie up the systems according to those leaks. Because you can still have it internally, but still leak can happen. You can have it externally, still you can have a good architecture around it. But fundamentally what happens is there is an input where the code base calls libraries, which should be in artifact repository, proper build systems which have authentication authorization, some kind of an egress proxy to ensure that traffic doesn't go to malicious website.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Sriram. It's like a couple of things you have covered, right? I mean, in terms specific to the SRE also you touched in terms of the policy enforcement, how it is taken care from the end to end. Since you touched on the SRE standpoint, maybe just I wanted to pass the ball to the other gentleman and specifically to the Vinay. The SRE also, it's not only on the supply chain risk, right? I mean, they are the one just protecting the entire reputation of the organization. And there will be a conflict, right, between the security team and the SRE team. And all the things, whatever the SRE team have done it is we will get to know from the attack surface management tool, like what has been deployed, whether it is CDN is there, whether the WAF is enabled, or it has a vulnerability or not, right? So that aspect's really, just I wanted to hear from other aspects how, each stage on the CA, CD has been taken care, and how this, the vulnerability has been, assured. and how this sign off between these two teams, right, in terms of the security as well as on the SRE on the CACD pipeline.
Yeah, thank you, Navneetan. That's a very great, interesting topic to start off with on the CACD side. Um, Taking a step back, when you look at the entire software development lifecycle architecture and the secure SDLC architecture, both working in hand to hand, there are 3 to 4 different topics or aspects that we need to carefully look at. Like going back to the old logic of PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. So in the overall software development life cycle, how do we stitch the security controls is very important, which is we need to plan what type of control to be implemented and what type of technologies to be implemented to achieve that control. For example, in the development phase or in the design phase, performing the security requirement analysis, and in the development phase, performing the SAS checks and then dependency scans, and in the test phase, we do the interactive testing and DAST, etc. And in the monitoring phase, we continuously monitor for the vulnerabilities as well as the performance. So taking this to the SRE concept, observability is very most important aspect that we all need to look at, especially the teams using the distributed technologies and systems, and look at what is the accuracy of the parameters or the factors that you're getting visibility on, how your systems are performing, and number 2, what are the security controls are in effect, right? Like I can deploy a SAS scan against a set of repositories and the code, which before gets into CD pipeline. Like, is my SAS scans effective, right? And what is the accuracy of the scans, and then are there any false positives? So just checking the accuracy from a monitoring standpoint is very important. And second thing is the testing it. Like, control testing is equally important aside with deploying the controls. We deploy the controls, but we never know how effective the controls are, so testing has to be done. And third phase is doing the gap assessment on whether there are any gaps in the control testing, and then deploy those, remediate those gaps. So from all the stages of CI/CD pipeline, observability, monitoring, and testing is equally important to make sure the security is tightly stitched into the entire development lifecycle and they are effective as well.
It's like very interesting, right? I mean, one is if all the things, all the team, if it is ideal, it's absolutely good to go. Yeah. And but the bigger challenge is what it comes is always the business comes is like yesterday. I want to do the deployment yesterday, right? It never be today or tomorrow. So all the team will be in a hurry, right? We wanted to get things done from end to end. So that aspect really just I wanted to see how the collaborations between, how you bring the collaborations between the cybersecurity team and in terms of the observability team. And that aspect also, maybe if you have a few points on real time, how you handle, that's what it is missing, right? The people will see we as a showstopper, but many people will understand we are the enabler. It's how you demonstrate, how you do the collaborations, whether it is a showstopper or the enabler, and how we can get things done. Maybe on a few points on the real time.
Sure, definitely. Love to share those insights. So 2 things, right? So one from deploying the technologies and controls. Number 2 is stitching the gap between, or bridging the gap between the security professionals and the developers or the technology folks. There's always a trade-off, and personally, I felt that, and I believe that this trade-off can be executed by putting a security champion kind of a program, especially from a people perspective, because looking at 2 different aspects or avenues. Number 1, if you are looking at an enterprise organizations versus startup organizations, the strength of a security team is much, much lesser compared to the technology partners or technology enablers. So always technology is considered as an enabler for the business, and security is always a supporting function. And whenever security controls to be deployed, obviously security is perceived as a kind of a blocker or a slowdown or a showstopper, right? So it's always a trade-off. So building a champion program to stitch people from security teams into the tech squads or pods will bridge that, will reduce the gap. and also gives us the visibility on how the tech is marching and how can we, enable the people to, deploy various security abilities and capabilities into the entire development lifecycle of, CI/CD or DevSecOps. That's one aspect. Number two is equipping the people with the right skill set, and knowledge is also very important. A lot of attacks are being against people. These days, attacks are less targeting the systems than people, so people are the most important target. It's been there for years.
Yeah,
Equipping the
really.
people-
On the people side, I have a lot of questions and then insights
Yeah.
I wanted from you actually.
Sure, yeah.
Really on this.
Yeah.
So in this aspect, really,
Navneet,
you
I'm
mean to
sorry.
say the security champion will play the significant role on the each milestone and then each delivery. What you have it up.
Yes.
It's awesome. See, thanks, Vinay. Like if you see Divya, you are working on the current trends, like whatever it is, it's happening on that. He's saying like where we have a, he mentioned like SRE team, it's a plays significant role. On top of that, there is observability at the same time in terms of the monitoring. But still, you have the observability monitoring along with the coordination of maybe the security champion. It's a lot of a blind spot coming to the picture on the the bigger way. So, what are the key components you feel that's like a blind spot which needs to be focused by all the leaders? We love to hear from you.
The blind spot I see between the CI/CD and the SRE is the guarantee of the right build which is moving from one place to another. That's where the handoff happen. From the development, they write the code, they push to the repository. SRE, mostly the SRE job or some of the CI/CD kicks in and they deploy into the stages. Whether it is a automated deployment or the manual deployment, it need to happen in the stages, and there is always a time gap in between. What if something gets corrupted? So that's the visibility is really very important, which I see many of the people, including us, we ignored for some time, and then we realized the importance of it. So then the SBOM and the signature which each and every build artifact which comes handy here. That's when we see, okay, whatever is getting built from the CI/CD where all the security vulnerability is getting tested, we are foolproof from the developer to the build to the delivery, not the deployment. And while we are deploying, we make sure that what is getting built is getting deployed. Having said that, again, few more things which is again missed in the pipeline. What I see is the logs. Logs are very important. He briefly covered the SRE part. I mean, we as a great HR, we ingest almost 80 TB of logs every month. Now imagine how huge that data is. It should not be only seen as an SRE aspect where somebody is trying to prove their OKR, which is uptime. No, it has so many vulnerability information as well and the security aspect as well. I have done one experiment where I have put an AI agent only scanning my logs for the vulnerability, and the AI agent surprises me saying, you know what, this duration, there was a suspected DDoS attack. So I was unaware, none of my security tool has detected it. So these are, I think, the blind spots where I need to also scan the logs as a SRE in the build pipeline, only not the delivery. From the delivery till deployment, I have to ensure that all the signed artifacts are moving, ensuring my signature with the artifact and the SBOM material. I think that will something will be really helpful.
Yeah, but that's it's good to have, right? Maybe on the theory or on the policy, people will say that a regular review of the logs. But in terms of the real use case, it's a little bit challenges, right? In terms of because it's like you were saying, say 80 TB, it is a huge. And on top of the monitoring, it's like the bigger challenges.
That's where the AI comes into picture. I mean, why do we have an AI? So AI, nobody manually, it's impossible, highly impossible that anybody can scan and go through the logs or create a dashboard, watch it manually. It's nearly impossible. Even from the SRE standpoint where I am observing my system through the matrices, distributed tracing, and the logging, the dashboards what I have created is not enough. The alerts I have created is not enough. The patterns in changing every day. That's where AI comes in handy, and if you deploy one agent which runs according to your job's schedule or continuous learning, that's possible. We have done it at Great HR. and that can scan and can alert you. That's where you will get a real value. The only mindful thing is it can also create so much noise. So over the time and over the period, you need to tune it so you only get the actionable alert. For example, again, DDoS attack. If I knew, I would have blocked that IP long ago. Now, because it's sending me continuous alert, the AI agent, and there is no human manual process involved, somebody know the actionable items, they are going and they're blocking that IP through my firewall, and it's protecting my system. I mean, especially after Operation Sindoor, we all know we have experienced so many attackers try to hack our system, the Indian system, and there was a surge in the hacking pattern. These kind of scanning in the security will really help and is helping us at Great HR.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. Really, just we are looking for this AI component. The AI, it's of course I'll come back, but we were always thinking, right? AI is an angel, and where we can have a great time with the angel. But after coming closer, only we thought that's a devil. Right now, it's everybody is a bit worried about how you're going to handle this AI component. Earlier we can leverage a lot, but now we are going to how we are going to make a bigger impact, right? Because like a lot of data is going out, and a lot of people they are losing the jobs, and a lot of automations which is bringing a lot of changes in the policy itself, right? Because that's bigger on the side. Abhishek, maybe I'll love to hear from you. See now, if you see this in terms of the consistency, specifically on the the policy standpoint. We have the hybrid environment, and we have the cloud environment, of course, where we have the on-prem environment. So really, just we wanted to understand how things are. It is taken care, how the consistently this policy has been enforced across the this organization. So maybe a lot to hear from you. Okay.
Yeah. So again, very interesting topic and really hard one actually. Again, I'll give my example as well as a Great HR. We are on the hybrid cloud, and we have on-prem data center. We are on AWS and we are on GCP. Now it's really hard for the security team or completely to maintain the security posture in each and every cloud. The tools and technology in every aspect is completely different from one cloud to another. But again, our motto is same. We need to secure our cloud. So we actually do with the three ways. Like one is having a common organization security policy. For example, my team, the security team has created a policy, hey, all the internal tool which they have the list should not be exposed to the internet. Very simple one, but very effective one. No matter you deploy to AWS, GCP or on-prem, you always check that, okay, this has to be there. Firewall policy, it's our policy. No matter in what cloud you will get, you always have a firewall application there and you have to put the policy. So the organization-wise policy which has to be enforced no matter which cloud, on-prem you are. The second important aspect which is already covered, I won't go deep there, is a CI/CD. So we have integrated the security in each and every CI/CD pipeline. So there could be different platform, on-prem, whatever GCP, Azure or whatever. CI/CD is same for that, only the delivery platform is a different one. So we ensure that my code is scanned, my images are scanned, the static code analysis has happened, everything is there. And then finally the running platform. And then we have a tool, each and every policy has to be a policy as a code. That's a very important aspect. If you only have documented policy, enforcing it throughout all the on-prem and to the different cloud is different. So policy as a code for the runtime environment is very important. And there are so many tools like Kyverno and all. So having all these in the places, we can secure the hybrid cloud exactly the same way we are securing whatever one cloud or the on-prem infrastructure. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, no, it's glad to hear, right? I mean, in terms of it's one policy irrespective of the cloud or maybe the hybrid, it's to have the consistency on this. Maybe just because I glad to hear from your views. How things it's monitoring, like if in terms of supply chain risk, it's not only the software building. In terms of, we have a lot of API component, right? The people will be, it's like where I have my complete core database inside, but it's like a multiple star, they put it on a single, tender coconut and then they're pulling, right? So the data is going out in the, the multiple aspects. So really just I wanted to see Of course, on the Shadow API also it's a bigger one. But however, there's a API alone. Just I wanted to see how we can avoid on this aspect. That's the first one. And second one, just I wanted to see he had mentioned in terms of the hybrid and then cloud, and maybe in terms of the on-prem specifically, how you wanted to manage in terms of consistency, because the consistency on the monitoring is to play very significant role. It's not just only during audit, right? I want to do it thorough that, the end-to-end, whatever is happening, it has to be enforced on that. So like, the glad to hear your views and then inputs.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very interesting question, and it is beyond that infrastructure now. So we are now discussing about the application itself and where it is getting deployed. So the first and most important aspect is from the beginning itself. We need to be secured, which has been covered now. But once it is deployed, then we need to have a correct tools which can provide you this particular monitoring. So there are two types of observability or monitoring we are having. So one is the how application is performing, whether it is performing well or not, and how the data is getting passed from one layer to another layer. So we are normally two types of applications. One is the user facing applications, one is the internal applications. One is which is deployed in the public subnet, one is in the private subnet. So if we are having a monitoring system in place where the data is coming from outside to our systems, and some other type of mechanism from at the layer where the public subnets related application is sending data to the private subnets data. So at that moment, if we find any such type of issues, that needs to be flagged and checked and see that what is the impact on that. So if we are segregating both the public facing applications and the private facing applications with some rules, with the help of InfoSec or with the tools whatever are provided, then we are at first level itself we are blocking that okay, you can't go beyond that. So infrastructure also plays a very good role, that how you have segregated your infrastructure, and then by the deployment itself you have closed that door, that okay, up to hit, even if you have come up to this place, you can't go beyond this place because this is internal. And the same thing happens when you are having an outbound traffic. So when you are connecting to some other places, like let's say you are connecting to some third party, or you are uploading something on the third party, right? Not talking about the S3 and all, which has a different type of security mechanism, and then you can control that. If you are connecting to some other parties and you have open network, have you checked whether any traffic which is unwanted is going there? Are you hitting it more than required? Is it matching with your traffic, or is there any bigger traffic which is going from your part? So rate limiting might be one of the things you can apply at public facing APIs and the outbound data whatever is getting accessed from that application. So there are different types of monitoring we can put, but it depends on what is the touch point, where is the touch point, whether it is in your control or whether it is outside of your control. So different mechanism needs to be applied. All those touch points where it is accessing or it is exposed to the internet, we need to have a very strict, like let's say WAF, rate limiter, or there are other mechanisms where network firewall comes into picture. We have like great tools like Palo Alto and all, they provide you all the network related ideas. And then there, if you apply some rules which can tell that, okay, if this threshold is reached or this threshold is, it exceeds that threshold, then you should get the alert. So in that aspect, we can control much. Thank you.
It was great. I mean, you talked about in terms of the segregation of the network, like what you wanted to have it, and then maybe in terms of the outbound traffic also, it's a play very significant. Always the people will think it's inbound traffic is very important, right? But that's a great insight. Maybe with that questions, really, Ashok, love to hear from you. So he had mentioned a couple of key stuff, right? In terms of the segmentations, we talk about SRA, what they have to do it, and of course CACD pipeline, what we have to ensure then. But the bigger challenge is where the security team really have to play the role in terms of the entire supply chain risk, whatever you have it, no, because we want to do the demarcations, right? What I have to do, what you have to do, and we should not do the ODO also. Because as I rightly mentioned, like in terms of 80 TB of logs, it's not so easy. I mean, of course we have a AA component, but taking the backup itself is the bigger challenges. Again, it's in this volume, it is the biggest step. So really love to hear from you in terms of the entire supply chain, the model really, where the security team can play role and what kind of role and what's the value addition just so they can bring it over. Glad to hear from you, Ashok.
Sure, sure. I mean, probably I would try to share my personal experience as well, the kind of exercises that I have done. I believe the security team should start playing the role from the beginning itself. When I say from the beginning, we all call it as security by design. Everyone knows about it. I strongly believe that the cross-functional collaboration should happen between the security team as well as your product teams as well as your architect team as well. Once we have the collaboration, the security by design falls in place. Without this, I haven't seen it working at all. I mean, it's all back and forth conversations, ineffective end of the day. So I think that's where the role starts for the security team, because once your product manager defines a new feature or it could be an enhancement, he's going to create a product requirement diagram in which the security team should play a role and ensure that the security considerations are documented as well. And that's a great place to start your threat modeling as well. And we all know that, the threat modeling has a beautiful outcome of what can be done and, what can go wrong and how bad it could be and what has to be done to prevent all those things. So I think that's the place where security team should start working. Apart from that, I have seen some of the companies adopting the practice of signing off the epics and user stories as well. So once the product manager finalizes and probably he's creating the epics, the workflow itself has an automation built that security team should validate it and signing it off. So security by design, I think we have to follow all these practices in which security team should play all the roles, and post that whatever the experts have shared during the CI/CD pipeline, be it the scanning in your version control system or your Jenkins or any sort of runtime security, in all the places we know that security team is already playing a vital role today. That's it.
Awesome, Ashok. It's a great to have, right, in terms of the security by design, and the specifically you have touched upon in terms of the threat modeling. That will be an awesome exercise. I mean, we are just keep insisting. It's been last 20 years to great to have a threat modeling that helps on the early stages, right? We can save all the development team time and then effort, as well as all the security team time and effort. Thank you so much, Ashok. Divya, just we talked about a lot in terms of complete the architectures, the designs, and then the implementation. We double click. We came on the software supply chain risk, just what we have it. And Ashok had mentioned in terms of where the security team can play the vital role actually, right? But still there is a gaps. There is a gaps like in terms of organization level or in terms of the SRE level, right? So just glad to hear from, because you had handled a lot of real time, the use cases, and love to hear from your insights where exactly where we are missing from the organization level as well as on the SRE level.
Okay, it's a nice question. So basically what happens that when we talk about DevOps or DevSecOps, normally we all talk about the speed. So whenever the speed, we focus on, definitely there will be a risk, there will be issue, there will be some blind spots. So many things are already covered by our speakers here. So maybe a couple of points which maybe I just like to add here. So we have so many tools in our pipeline, whether it's a SaaS, TAST, whether you have IAC scanners or whatever it is. But when you come to the reality, we have so many tools, so definitely the reports are overwhelming. So it is very natural that which one to take, which one to rely on. There is lots of false positives as well. So we need to look more of a single pane aggregator kind of a solution always. So there actually we should come to know what is our cybersecurity posture, how we can improvise it. The SALSA, the SLSA, the concept which is pretty much getting adapted to the practices now. This is something which all need to look into. We need to maintain the live SBOMs, because there are so many third-party packages or container images we are keep on packaging, and I don't know how much is the trust level, and I don't know how much we are trying to evaluate on continuous manner. So this is something which is, we have so many attacks. Recently also there is attack happened on 6th, so we all know. So we all need to be really look into the SLSA, which is going to be very much adaptive in coming days.
Awesome. The way you have agreed, and then move on like specific to the speed, right? And always the people will look on the speed, but the quality and in terms of security also play very significant role. As rightly Ashok also mentioned, that security by design, privacy by designs, the makes and the bigger way. But how it's happening on the real ground, just maybe a few insights. If any deployment it comes, you will get a pressure from two people, right? One is from the security, one is from the product engineering. How you handle on the ground in terms of what's a priority you handle, like just to make an exception and then move on, or that's like always irrespective of the thing, just to assure that things are taken care, then only it has to move on. Maybe a few thoughts.
So basically it boils down to the main core business. Whether the core business is how much it is exploited or there is a chance of exploitable, because there is a lot of other warnings also may distract you. So I would rather say focus on the main core business exploitation, potential risk. That will be the first point to look into for the resolution.
Great. Thanks, buddy. See, since you touched on in terms of the code and then DevSecOps, like one of the key points, like how you're balancing speed versus security, and speed, security, as well as on terms of the business. And of course, the business objective is predominantly it's a bigger one, but how securely we can move that makes the bigger difference. Maybe Anvish, I'd love to hear from you since we talked about organization level as well as in terms of DevSoc. Now, just I want to double click one more level in terms of the code. On code level, how the code signing, because the code hygiene also is very important, right?
Yeah.
So how the code signing thinks it's happening, and then what is the process? What are the key stuff you feel which is missing in the current trends? How we can take it forward?
Thanks, Navneet. So I think we've discussed many aspects, and I think now we are getting into the preventive aspects there. And as you know, the core parts of a supply chain security is the source code being committed, and there's artifacts being built, and the build system which actually builds this entire process, right? And the biggest thing in supply chain security is if you don't even know who is building or who is committing your code, the entire downstream, so many downstream risks come into play, right? So today there's already very easy to establish, code commit, using Git key, commit keys. Even you can use hardware tokens to sign your Git commits, right? So code signing is very easy to do, right? And everyone is already established on the identity part, right? And enforcing a strong developer identity, it goes a long way. It's very easy to do, and once you know who are your developers, sometimes we have seen cases where, in real time, we actually seen there was a non-tech person who had access to Git, right? And they were phished, and because of their access, the entire Git code was compromised, right? So then it was an obvious question: why did a non-tech person even get access to a Git repository? Maybe because IT team just randomly put them into some group and they got access, right? So enforcing strong developer identity, with code signing, is a very easy to do, and it highly prevents, easily prevents so many attacks downstream, right? So coming from code signing, next comes the artifact integrity. And and just picking up on what Dibya said, I don't know how many of you actually know about this SALSA framework, right? This was introduced by Google almost many years ago, and it actually gives you a maturity model how your entire supply chain systems can be graded from one level, one SALSA version. I think it has 4 levels, that you can go from level 1 provenance to level 4 provenance, right? So here artifact integrity comes into picture. Artifact can be your packages, binaries and all, and it's very easy to do, right? You make sure your artifacts are signed, and when they're deployed in production, they're verified at runtime, right? So there are again very established open source frameworks. Even as a SALSA framework is, it has a Git repository. It's very easy to establish because there are already tools and frameworks to help you establish that in your own company. And finally, from artifact integrity, it goes to build system security, right? When you talk about build system security, again, it goes back to very core principle of security, right? Which is basically isolation, right? And authentication and authorization. The biggest challenge is most of our build pipelines today, developers are only bothered about the final outcome. Hey, where is the binary? Are we deploying it? But I want to quickly drop one analogy here, which will be easy for you to relate. Let's take today, any package delivery which comes into your place, there's so much which is happening behind the scenes. At every step, right, from the source to the destination, as your package moves through different delivery hubs, different delivery partners, there's everyone checking in, right? There is a system which checks through every step of the way if you are authorized to handle the package. And even if there was someone replaced your favorite iPhone with a rock, there is a way to prove what happened wrong. So there are systems in place. So this is where you use the SALSA framework. So there is this whole concept of build provenance systems, right, which helps you actually implement it, and actually you can even take it to your management. Hey, we are today at level 1 provenance, and we can go to level 3 provenance. So coming back to isolation, I'm just talking about you do not have to have the same build system build for critical products deliveries, right? That itself is a bigger chance, because if your build system gets compromised, all your product binaries are compromised.
Absolutely. Awesome. You brought, thank you so much for bringing and suggesting the framework also. And specifically, you talked about identity access management for the software developer also, right? Who have access on what level. Always as a security team, we strongly believe as applications what needs to be taken care. But some extent, as you rightly mentioned, in terms of the connecting and stretching the integration part itself, and then it will be awesome stuff. Since you spoke on in terms of the code signing as well as integration, really, so we'll just we want to touch or open the bigger the challenges what it's happening on the SBOM. And the current trends, if you see, the people are not much bothered about what has been delivered. Just they are focusing on what has been used internally. Now the requirement comes from the RBI and SEBI also. We should have the SBOM system for your own ecosystem at the same time for who are all providing services to you. Because earlier we see as the application, but now it's not application, it's a library. On the library level, what is a library, you have it, and then what's the encryption, decryptions, and then how the code is changed, and then how the the key is exchanged, and what kind of vulnerability the library have, it also plays the bigger role. So glad to hear your input on in terms of the SBOM management for local as well as on any third-party vendors.
Sure. I'll take an analogy here. Now, if you take any packaged foods, you see that what are the ingredients that is used, what is the carbohydrates percentage it has got, sodium percentage it has got. Why do they publish it? So that people can adopt it based on it. Okay, they are diabetic, probably that food is not good for them. Or maybe they have a high BP, so they can avoid a food for that, right? So it gives you a picture of what the product has been designed with the ingredients in it. Similarly, if you come to the IT world, we have asset inventory, we have systems, right? We say, okay, a laptop is there. What is a component of the laptop? We have a CPU, Intel based, AMD based, we have a DRAM, SDRAM, right? Why is it all this important for us to understand it, right? Maybe my project may not work on an Intel platform, or maybe I see that my application will run good on AMD, right? So for me to understand how my application will work, I need to understand the components of the system I'm using it. But when it comes to the software, we usually do not go into picture of that. Somebody has published a package, we take the package, start utilizing it without understanding what libraries were used, what development tools were used, and because of which, if there are any vulnerabilities or issues in that, we are blinded by it, right? The one thing in a security side, unless you have a viewpoint of your footprint, it's very difficult to protect it. So getting an inventory is very important. From an application side, it becomes important. That's where the SBOM comes into picture, right? I mean, the bill of materials that we call, right? You go to house constructions or anywhere, they give you a bill telling that, okay, this much is the cement that you needed, you get it from this person and all of those things, right? Similar is the case with the software. So you take a package, but you don't know what open source was used, what library was used. So you use a tool which can give you the inventory of the package, along with whether it's an open source, it's not open source, what version it is, so that you have a visibility into what all components are there. Now, can it be a preventive solution? It is not a preventive solution. It's basically getting a visibility into footprint of where all your functions are, what are your dependencies, and how you can address these dependencies. So that's where SBOM comes into picture. Now, why is it critical? Because Log4j was a major eye-opener for the industry in the supply chain risk. Before that, I don't think anybody dwelled too much on the application side. Everybody were focusing more on the network side, operating system side, but the critical portion, which is application, which is exposed to internet, got started from the Log4j. So that is when government realized that there are a lot of dependencies on other products, but because, sorry to say, but unless a policeman comes behind us, we don't enforce it. And that's why all the laws are coming back and telling that, okay, you have to enforce it, right? So RBI came up for India, US has made it compulsory for any supplier who wants to work with the federal government, right? So similarly, most of the other governments also have started enforcing it. Now, the critical function of this is the visibility part, so that I know what my dependencies are.
Awesome. Thank you so much for bringing. And the best part what you brought it is in terms of the visibility, right? To understand who's doing what and then how it is happening on the visibility standpoint. SBOM will have a multiple sources, right? Where it is a license, and then in terms of the code, what we have it. Maybe I can bring Divya now here. Specific to because so let's give just in terms of the wider aspects, like what are the challenges in terms of what is in-house, out-house, as well as how we can enforce in terms of the visibility, right? Now, really, just I wanted to hear, I wanted to double click one more thing. So it's like only on the open source. See, the open source have a lot of challenges and then issues in respect of, it does the function, but at the same time, it has in the vulnerability. Who takes the ownership, right? In terms of the OEM itself, they have a challenges in terms of how we can fix it. But if you use the open source, there is no accountability and then there is no responsibility where I can go ahead and then fix that standpoint, right? So connecting the SBOM to you, like in terms of specifically on the open source standpoint, how it has been taken care, and what are the key measures which need to be ensured for all the organizations.
Okay. So for the open source, normally we all are consumers. So we also need to think that how we can contribute to it, whether we can have some kind of fixes, maybe some way we can generate some funding, how to make it happen. Because these open sources means there is no cost involved. So obviously how the team or the person will be encouraged enough to go ahead with improvising that software or that applications. So I would rather say try to contribute wherever it is possible. Then participate in OpenSSF platforms, share best practices. But as a major point of view also, we need to continuously look into the vulnerability associated with this open sources. So SBOM live management or live monitoring of SBOMs is extremely important, because normally what happens that we talk about SBOMs either on the beginning of the project or at the end of the project, normally, okay? People forget about SBOM and they say, okay, we'll see during the release gate what happens. So
So try to maintain that SBOM very lively and see how we can improvise that particular open source.
I'd like to add one more point quickly here, and also for the audience, right? Specifically, you talk about open source.
Absolutely.
And a lot of malicious open source package being used in the software. So here is where dependency pinning is very important, right? You have an artifact repository. You ensure that the developers refer their libraries only to their internal artifact repository and create an hash of those libraries that are being used, right? So when you have a proper checking mechanism, Abhishek mentioned about only signed containers being deployed. But what if the libraries that are being used to build the build systems or the software component in itself is a vulnerability? That's where dependency pinning is very important.
Awesome. Since you brought this, I have one more questions for you. This is while building, right? Maybe in terms of any incident happen, how we can believe on in terms of the IOC. This is whatever you have told, like while building, right? Once you build, once this exploit is happening in multiple organization, love to hear in terms of the how the IOC we can believe, how those IOCs has been tested, and it's like a trust, because what are IOC, it comes like blindly we go ahead and then deploy it, right? I mean, we trusted it like IOCs trusted, and then which will, it's like a more of the patch kind of stuff to prevent all the incident. Just love to hear on other views also.
I think you highlighted it initially when we started off the conversation. This, as much as ingress is very important, I think the most important is the egress, right? You can still come in, but you can't make them move out. So going back to my my first part of the answer that I gave to you, right? There are 4 types of compromises that can happen, right? I mean, vulnerability, exploitability, right? In terms of malicious packages, vulnerable components, and we talked about tokens being leaked and build being tampered, right? Out of that, three ensures that if you have a proper egress in place. See, most of the times when malicious packages are, what the hackers would want to do, they would want to get the shell back, or they would want to get the connection back. So if you have a proper egress in place with rules listing down only allowed list, and also have IPs that are malicious being blocked, I think to command and control centers and so on and so forth, it's fine. And I've also experienced where when keys are being lost, tokens are being lost, another indicator of compromise where there is a bulk cloning that happens of the GitHub repository. So that can also be considered as an indicator of compromise. So ultimately, it is the connection that goes back, or some kind of an unusual event that happens in your system, which can be considered as an indicator of compromise, and you can start working on it.
Awesome, the input, Sriyam. Specifically, just you had mentioned, it's not only on the increase, egress also play a significant role. And other interesting factors, in terms of your lost, in terms of your token, and in terms of those authorizations play very significant. Since you touched in terms of the lost and then token, Vinay, maybe just I wanted to bring it. He talks about in terms of the technology connect, right? On the technology side, if anything goes wrong, how I can block with this IOC component. But coming to the people, right? We have seen the technology side, but coming to the people, how do you block this? I mean, in terms of the detection as well as the preventions, right? It's not so easy, because we trust our employees. So that's what we have given complete database to them. We trust our employees, so that's what we have given the core finance to the respective team. And if it is technology level, of course we have a IOC where we can do it to prevent such attack in the future stuff. But in terms of the people, like how do we handle? And glad to hear what are the aspects.
Yeah, so great thing. Just to begin with a data point, and this is a common public data point, 91% of major hacks are because of compromising people, compromising employees. It could be various type of attacks, right? So people are still the weakest links in the system. That's a proverb, known proverb. So all my co-speakers, including me, so we spoke about various technological components, how to secure the systems. But how many tools are there to protect people from attackers or hackers, right? They're very limited, or even low, just in fingertips, you can count. So while all the industries are working towards securing their systems using technologies, processes, automation, AI, etc., there is very less effort going in securing people, like their own people, right? In my personal experience and the practices that we are trying to explore in my current organization, so we are targeting people as well, right? So for example, this is the funda I'm just thinking of, train, test, train, fire, right? You train people, equip them with whatever you want, and then let them do their job, test their effectiveness, how secure they are or how vigilant they are to protect themselves and the systems from the attackers, test them using various simulations. It's not just only about the email phishing or normal phishing simulations we do. We really have to do the red teaming against people. Then only, we will find out how vigilant they are and how active they are in protecting themselves and their company assets. So test them. Again, if you find they are, not up to the mark in protecting themselves, falling prey for the phishing attacks or the attackers' attempts, then, again train them or retrain them, give them the support. If still not working, fire them. So obviously, every person in the company needs to know what they are responsible, accountable for, and people has to be held accountable, and people has to know what is the disciplinary actions in case if they
But what kind of
violate the
testing?
policies.
What kind of testing where we can do in terms of the psychological test? When
Yeah. So we are actually exploring few things out of the box. So far, even most of us knew that email phishing can be done against the people to test their training effectiveness on security. And phishing can be done, smishing can be done, and we are exploring other channels of using various other channels of attempting the phishings. Like for example, WhatsApp-based phishing, Telegram-based phishing, voice phishing, and interactive red teaming against the people, right? So we can form a red team inside who will do red teaming attack against the people, follow the same modus operandi that the attackers are following, right? So they reach out to you on LinkedIn using job offers. They reach out to you on Telegram using various other, giving some other opportunities and offers. Finally, bring them onto their platform and then compromise you. Through you, they compromise your systems and then, take out the sensitive information or the assets. So that is one thing which I think we should explore more on, testing against the people and equipping them and then making them secure first. Secondly, how do I know there is a rogue insider, right? If a DevOps person, a senior DevOps person having keys to kingdom for your entire non-cloud cloud infrastructure, so how do I know he's malicious, he has a malicious intent or he's a rogue insider? There is no tool to test it. So we may have to go out of the box to look at his some of the personal notions of the person. For example, previously we in other companies like big corporates, and there are sensitive roles. People are tagged as sensitive roles, and sensitive role people are sent on mandated vacation, kind of job rotation. Sensitive roles people are put through drug tests, blood tests, right? Because if somebody is handling the entire vault of the bank, so he or she would be put under blood test to understand, the person's intent in grabbing money or earning more money, right? So those are the few things which we have to explore out of the band to understand, at least to identify the potential rogue insiders with malicious intent.
Awesome. The correlating and connecting all the scenarios also it's a play. It's not PC, it's in the silo mode, right? Not as an employee. Like externally, what are the parameters connected? And how does internal employees connected or exposed to that things also we need to be, see on that aspects.
Correct.
Awesome. Of course, really just I wanted to also hear from Lord. One is like internal employee head cover, but I want to hear from you in terms of, it's like a three aspects. Like internal employee, we have a control. But in terms of the third party vendors and supplier, we don't have a control at all. So really just love to hear from that aspects, like how we can, monitor, and then at the same time, how we can ensure that those employees have effective governance in terms of loyal to the respective, task, what they are doing there.
Yeah, so I will just add one point and
Yeah,
then I will add this point also because that is a continuation of that. So as we have just discussed about the social engineering part and then other scenarios, for the developers who are developing the software, they also need to be trained enough to understand what is the secure software supply chain thing. So I see very less courses available or less focus on that, and all those courses which are coming from the InfoSec, normally they are like please do this in this manner or this time, and they are not focusing on that aspect that you have to follow the secure software development practices. So that is one aspect. I think cultural shift is required to change the mindset of the developer from the beginning itself. You need to think about that, do that, and then don't get trapped afterwards once you have developed, because it will take time to reverse that, whatever you have done. So second aspect is the contractors and the third parties and all. So we have to have a guardrail. So third party will have a very very important aspect. They have to earn money, although they have to earn our trust also, but they are there for lesser time, right? So they will have to complete the task, and they might be ignoring those type of aspects which are very important for you. So while onboarding, after that, if once you receive the components, what are the guardrails you are putting that, whether you are integrating directly into your system, or you are having a sandbox where you are testing that separately, so that you don't get your core system impacted, because whenever the things which are coming from outside, it is directly integrated to you, and you can't blame them and that much, right? Because you can't keep them accountable with that. So although you have contracts, all those due diligence in place, but I would suggest to have a guardrail, not believe whatever has been delivered with the same security, whatever you want to keep in your company, and take it up, do it in a different environment, then adopt it. This is similar to how we want to do all these SaaS related also integrations.
No, it's awesome. It's like the main thing is just you covered not only on money, right? Earning trust also play very significant role. Maybe just along with this, Ashok, it's like a few stuff, right? I wanted to hear, since he talks about in terms of third-party vendors as well as internal employees, of course, he had touched, but not only internal employee, right? The developers also playing very significant role. So really love to hear and quick, the few points in terms of developer standpoint, what needs to be to avoid in terms of number of bugs, or to avoid in terms of logical, the issues, what we have it, what else where we can get things done. Just love to hear from you.
Sure, I'll try to keep it short. So apart from the training that Mr. Vikas mentioned, of course, what we can do is we can enable the developers with the tools as well. So when I say tools, in their IDE environment, in their local laptop, before even the code is pushed to their version control system or code repository system, there are multiple tools today which can assist the developers. I mean, there are some AI tools as well, and plenty of OEMs are adopting to them as well. We call it as agentic AIs. They help the developers in their laptop before even they push the code to the code repository system. That is one way of equipping them. And of course, with the rewards and the recognition as well. Probably with respect to training, I would like to add one more aspect that which we practiced. One is about the broader training, which covers all the web security, mobile security, API security practices. So once it is done, we also have the metrics to track each and every engineering team. When I say metrics, we categorize the kind of issues that we identified from each and every engineering team. For example, SQL injection, or it could be input validation, it could be XSS, CSRF. We categorize the number of issues for each and every team. We count them through our automation model, and based on which we conduct the focus trainings as well. So this is something which I found as personally effective as well, and it has created some positive impact also in the organization.
Awesome, Ashok. It's like a specifically training. On top of that, you have mentioned like a metrics to monitor, right? And maybe really glad to hear more, maybe in the offline, just we can discuss, because having metrics for our own team itself is a little bit challenge, right? It's having for the developer it's like a cross domain. It's like a matrix, administration coming to the picture. Of course, we'll discuss in detail.
Sure.
See, we discussed a lot in terms of the people standpoint. Maybe Sunil, I'd love to hear from you. This all people process technology is done, but still we are talking about the intelligence, right? On top of this, all the things, how the threat intel will help to detect and prevent such, whether it is the people issues or the technology issues, and because that's what it is, right? It's a proactive stuff. So maybe on a quick note, glad to from your view.
See, it's a very broad topic and very difficult to cover in a small, but I'll try to cover in 2 or 3 statements. See, there are a lot of third-party vendors who provide service to monitor your vendors, right? Like companies like BitSight, Security Scorecard, they look at your external posture and develop a scoring system, which you can use it to see whether your vendor has a good external security posture or not, right? That is one aspect. The second aspect is we need to understand who our critical vendors are. Not all vendors are critical. We need to understand what is the service the vendor is providing us, what services they are consuming of ours, what data they are consuming, and then you decide whether it's a critical vendor or not. And your controls for vendor monitoring has to depend upon your criticality of the vendor. It's not that we have to do for everything. Let's say I'm sharing a PII data with one of the vendor. So I need to understand how is it being consumed, where is he storing it, what are his security program, and can I do a contractual obligation on him to audit and monitor that, right? So I'll stop at this. There's a lot more to cover, but I think a brief view on this part. Okay.
Absolutely. It may be my the last questions to maybe any of the leaders can pick up. So we talked about in terms of overall as organization, supply chain risk, what we have it. Then we deep dive in terms of complete DevSecOps, CA/CD line, what we can do. Then where we deep dive in terms of all the application, just what needs to be taken care, and in terms of development or in terms of the check-in, check-out, the integrations. Then we touched upon in terms of the the people, what exactly where we have to get things done on that. And it's maybe the last very important stuff is on top of the threat intel, how we can do the incident containment, right? If any supply chain risk has happened, how we can use this AAML or maybe without AAML, or of course AAML, maybe I can talk locked in terms of how we can do the incident containment. Or maybe love to hear with that note, from anyone, any of the leaders just we want to pick up, specifically on the AAML in terms of how we can do the incident containment. Because that's like very important, right? Incident happen, it's like anywhere we are prone to have an attack, but how the containment and how the incident response with the AAML, it's play very significant role.
So one line I will just add, and after that, so blast radius. So what is the blast radius when the incident happens? And if it is much more, which system to kill first? Because if something has been impacted, you need to know that whether this impact will go ahead and impact everything else. So can you contain it at that level itself? So understand which application is impacted, which infrastructure is impacted, or whether it can impact the others also. So segregate that, remove that, that is one of the thing. And this observability or monitoring before whatever we discussed, that also has a greater role, how we can quickly get that known. So MTTD or MTTR, that has to be reduced so low that before getting these problems cascaded to all the system, can we know that, and this AIML can help to contain that. I will ask somebody else to get that.
No, it is awesome. I mean, specifically you have covered in terms of how we can reduce the MTT and then MTTR, and with the effective enforcements and then effective real-time use cases, that makes help us in terms of lot, right? It's awesome input. Even though it's like, I thought it's 1 hour how we are going to manage, but I believe just we are crossing that time. I know that she's keep looking us like when I can say the closing remarks. Awesome, with that note, really just I wanted to hear, it's maybe the 1 second from each leader, like in terms of what's the takeaway, and then from that just where we can close. See, always the panel discussion, it's like ignition, right? It may not be this all the input. You can see the who is good at what. Maybe later stage you can connect and then get it like what are the best practice they do that, how we can get it implement on, the organization. That's a best practice. I take it up in all the panel. Maybe just allow to start from you, just quick, the one takeaway, from the supply chain risk as well as how we can make the trust on the ecosystems.
So my takeaway is the people aspect, which is extremely important, what we understand today.
Great.
I think my takeaway is let's shift left, secure early, and also secure by design, not by patch.
Awesome, amazing.
SBOM and API governance is my takeaway. It's a very important concept.
Wonderful. I mean, both well connected to the bigger external
Right,
component. Amazing. Nice.
Yes.
Security in the DNA.
Security, yeah, we are trying right from the long time. It is awesome. Glad to have. Now, it's of course the privacy also should be part of that. It's coming on. Thanks a lot. Yeah, dear.
Yeah, my takeaway is take security very serious. It can cost you business, especially the code nowadays generated by the AI/ML. As per one of the report I was reading, 44% of the code generated by AI/ML are vulnerable. So put the security checks in each and every stage and take it very seriously.
Awesome.
Doesn't gravitate towards one element. There is a combination of people, process, and technology to ensure that
Balancing people, process, technology, of course, the combination. Awesome.
Identify all the links in the chain and ensure they're always strong.
Amazing. Just different perspective. Thanks a lot.
My takeaway is, I think, the time has started for fourth-party risk. What we are seeing with the Salesforce drift is actually a fourth-party risk. And maybe it's time we should ask our vendors for SBOMs so that we
Amazing.
can validate. I don't know how much they'll be happy, but yeah.
Awesome, amazing. That's like my takeaway, and with that, just we can give a great applause to all the leaders for their insights and their input. Thank you so much, team, and thank you so much, leader, for the great insights and the input. Over to you, madam. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.